relationships. This class is a lot more complicated than all the other ones before. Although there's going to be more classes about all the topics that we've touched on that are more in depth. But this one in particular, we're not only talking about relationships that you may have with partners intimately. This is a broad class about relationships. Today, we're just going to touch just barely on the surface of what relationships should actually look like with both intimate partners, with your jobs, with your friends, with your family, and with money. Seems like none of these things have anything in common, but the reality is that they are all completely aligned, exactly the same. Your relationship with all of these 5 things, it's a mirror on who you are, where you're coming from, and how you are showing up in your life and attracting every one of the 5 things I've just listed. So, like always, headphones, quiet place, pen or pencil, piece of paper, because there are going to be some key ideas that you're going to want to write down, but we're going to keep it really nice and simple. All right. Before we begin talking about these relationships, we're going to jump into some new breathing techniques. First, like always, we're going to begin with 6 really deep breaths, just regular breathing in through your nose and exhaling through your mouth. It's kind of like releasing whatever is holding you down or holding you back so you can get some clarity as to how to move forward. And the next ones are brand new breaths that if you have asthma or if you are somebody who gets lightheaded really easily, I suggest that you do not do these breathing exercises. If you have done them before, please by all means do it. They're called, it's a fire breath. It's all through your nose. It's very fast inhales and exhales that we usually are going to do just for 10 seconds and then take a break and then do 10 seconds. It is not recommended for anybody who, again, gets really lightheaded, faints often, or has asthma, or has never done this before. And if you're recovering from a cold, I suggest you don't do them at all either. They're fast regulations of your nervous system. They create this giant flow of breath and an oxygenated blood through the whole entire body. And it's a very, very wonderful reset when you are in a place of really high anxiety, or you are having something that feels like a panic attack, or you feel like there's heaviness in your throat and in your chest. Okay. So again, if you don't want to, you don't have to. While we're doing those 10 seconds and taking a break and then another 10 seconds, you can just do a quick inhale and exhale like you've done to begin. So whenever you're ready, get some headphones in, go into a quiet place, and let's get to breathing. You ready? We're going to start by doing breath work like we do when we get into a topic that might be a little bit triggering, a little bit difficult. And we're just going to barely touch on the surface of what relationships are or what it means to be in a relationship, not only intimate ones, as we talked about real quick. So let's focus on some really, 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 really good breathing. And this breathing is called the fire breath. It is one of my most favorite breaths. This breath work is extremely important when you are in a fight or flight situation, when your anxiety is just through the roof, when you're feeling really heavy, when you feel like there's something sitting in your throat and in your heart. That usually is a sign that you are not coming from a very well-centered place and your overthinking mind is taking over the messages that your heart or your throat are trying to tell you. It's based on a emotional chakra system, or where we keep emotions in our body, because as we know, our body does keep the score. So it's all through your nose. It's very, 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 very fast breathing, but we're going to start with 6 very slow breaths just so we can get used to just focusing on our breath. So let's take a nice deep inhale through our nose, and then we're going to do an exhale out of our mouth. So deep inhale inside our nose first, and then out. you should almost immediately start feeling a lot better. Now, with the fire breathing or fire breath, it is a breath that is very, 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 very quick. So relax your shoulders, unhinge your jaw, remove your tongue from the roof of your mouth. And if you need to relax your shoulders, move them around in circles. And then we're going to go into a very fast, deep breath. 10 of them. I'll keep count and I'll tell you when to stop. Are you ready? Let's do this thing. All right, that was 10 seconds. That's what I meant by 10. I apologize for not being more clear in the beginning. Let's do 10 more seconds. Are you ready? You got this. We can do this. I know it feels really, really, really strange, but you're in a safe place and you're doing exactly the right thing just to get you to move into a better space. Connecting your breath means that you are regulating your nervous system all by yourself. You should be very proud of being here with me. You ready? Let's do this again for 10 more seconds. You did amazing. You might feel lightheaded. Give it a little bit. Go back to your regular breathing. You are safe exactly where you are. Nice and slow. Take some time. You're doing amazing. Now that we have focused on breath, let's just kind of touch on relationships real quick on the surface. And I want to start this class, by really looking into the cliches of certain relationships. So I grew up in the 80s. I grew up in the 80s and the 90s. And I grew up with the cliche of living your life in a certain order. You know, you graduate high school, you apply for a good college, you do a 4-year college, you go get a master's degree right after. And during that time, if you're going to be in a relationship, you have to pick the right relationship because after college, you should get married and have children. Now, it wasn't an idea that was implemented or pressured on me by my direct family members, by my parents. It was just a societal thing. It's what you did, and you had to go to college. Because of these ideas that were implemented within ourselves, and this is something that continues getting carried through all these generations, except new generations are starting to wake up and just be like, wait a minute, what do I have to do? That sounds absolutely ridiculous. But the expectation, the cliche always has been that you have to get married and you have to have children, and then you have to buy a house, and then you have to go to college, and then you have to get a career. It's all bogus. All of it is bogus. And if it makes you uncomfortable to be told this, then you're in the right place, because new information is not supposed to make you feel soft and warm inside. It's supposed to be extremely triggering and awakening for you. And anything that comes up for you in this very moment, wherever you feel it in your body, if you have your journal or a piece of paper next to you, write it down. We can talk about this further along in these classes. So let's say that you followed through with this cliche. Let's say that you are now 18, 19, graduating high school, applying for all these dream colleges without really thinking about the financial aspect of going to college, right? For example, now, hear me out. Let's say that you are an undecided major. You are not in school because you want to become a doctor. You're not in school because you want to become a nurse. You're not in school because you are so mathematically equipped that you want to go into financing or into stock markets or into real estate. You just are going to school because it's the thing that you need to do. Now, if you really think about it nowadays, the more expensive colleges are really out there in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. But even if you just go to a state college right now, you're looking at $30,000 a year for an average. I might be lowballing it by a big shot, but for example, 30 grand in 1 year go into a 4-year college and then possibly 5-year college, because a lot of universities that people go to, especially in state, you end up staying a little bit longer, especially if you're undecided major in the beginning of your career. So you're looking at what, mathematically speaking, $30,000 a year for 5 years. That is your student loan. Let's say that you end up just studying business. Now, the idea would be really cool if you went into school and just studied business, and when you graduated, you got a $45,000 to $60,000 a year job. But still, $30,000 a year for an education while you're only making about $30,000 to $35,000 a year if you are lucky. Most basic standard first beginner jobs don't pay you any more than $20,000 to $24,000 a year. So you have this giant chunk of debt. And then society is also expecting you to get a mortgage, which are nearly impossible to do now. And society is also expecting you to have a partner to help you pay for this mortgage. But if they're on the same boat, both of you are now carrying $60,000 a year in debt for 1 year of education. Do you understand where I'm getting at? Now, that is just the idea of going to college and then having a relationship and getting married and all that junk, which also marriages right now trying to find, if you want to have a wedding, that's going to cost you now another $50,000. You understand where I'm getting at? So society speaking, we've been handed this script of these expectations of the things that we should be doing when we turn 17, 18, 19, 20 about life, relationships, and financing. Crazy. Let's move away from the cliche, because that was pretty stressful for me, and I am over that giant hump. The idea of having really good, profound relationships with partners, with your friends, with your family, with the careers that you're in, and with money, it's all one equation. It all comes together in one simple equation, is how you view your worth. How you view your ability to make choices to create a life that you actually want to create. Now, if you're handed a script and you're told by your peers, by your family members, this is the expected thing that you need to do, this is what everybody is doing, this is the way that life should be defined, and you have no perspective of how you have actually other fucking choices to make, you are going to do exactly what your neighbor did, what your next door neighbor did, what your uncle did, what your cousin did, what your best friend did. But the reality is that in the very fragile years of your teens and then your 20s and then also the beginning of your 30s, these are years that should be spent really looking into introspective of what you actually want to do with your life and how to get to a point and have a really good relationship with money and the people that are around you. That is a completely different class. So let's start looking at our self-worth. If we are coming from a place where majority of our life was dictated and written for us by the people that we are surrounded by, our parents, our uncles, our grandparents, our foster parents, whoever were the people that were in charge of your life, in the sense of taking care of you, and you weren't given the choices to expand your imagination and see how else you can move forward, you were pre-programmed to believe that life only was defined by how long friendships have lasted, how long your relationship has been. Well, I've been with somebody for 10 years. How's your relationship? Questionable, but it's been 10 years. So where am I going to go now? Or defined by having 3 to 4 different jobs in your 20s while trying to make ends meet by having an education, right? Fight or flight, you're on overdrive all the time, right? So you're not really making decisions for yourself. If we could remove all of these things and all of these scripts and all these requirements and all these things that society has expected us to do, we would create better relationships, not only with the people around us, but primarily with ourselves. The most important relationship that you will ever have is with you. I'm going to say it again. The most important relationship that you will ever have is a relationship with you. It doesn't matter if you're a parent or if you're not a parent, but from a parent perspective, when I look at my children, I give them ideas of how to move forward through their life without pressure, without prejudice, without anything at all. I'm just here to give them instructions, and they are the ones that have to make the decisions to move forward. Now, what I think is correct or what I think is incorrect is a perspective from myself, from where I'm at. So if you were raised by parents that gave you the choice to explore what can be done in your lifetime and did not just tell you, this is the script, you are going to follow the script, you're going to go to college, you're going to get a good job, you're going to meet a great person, you're going to marry them, you're going to have children, you're going to get a mortgage, and you're going to get a boat, and then you're going to get a vacation home, and you're going to do all these things. And you're going to fall into deep debt and probably do the majority of these things, not really being clear as to what you actually want, but following somebody else's needs for you. A lot of the relationships that we are in were created from need, not want. And this is what this class is really going to be looking at. We have come to a place where now we're going to look into the difference between needing and wanting something. When you are presented with information, you want to be like the collective. We are a community. We are mirrors of each other. I mirror you, you mirror me, we mirror each other. I can only see you as far as I can see myself, and you can only see me as far as you see yourself. So if you are a firm believer, because it feels like that's the script across all generations, again, except probably the most younger ones recently, that, well, I have been friends with this person for 30 years. Yeah, they sometimes treat me like shit. And yeah, I don't see eye to eye with them half the time. And we do clunk heads, but that relationship means a lot to me because I've been with them for 30 years. Any kind of relationship, intimate or friendships. Well, they're my family member. I need to show up for them because they are my mother, they are my father, they are my cousin, they are my uncle. Even if they are negative or judgmental or have really strange expectations of me, they are blood, so I have to show up for them. Financially, I do want to keep fighting really hard to do and see and be the things that everybody around me wants to be. So I kind of sort of sometimes get really stuck because I max on my credit cards and I have to work 3 or 4 jobs to pay for this beautiful giant truck that I've always wanted because everybody at work has this truck. Yeah, no, I understand this job is not really fulfilling my needs, but it's paying me enough money right now so I can make ends meet. Do you understand? If you come out of the need to be like everybody else and you start to get clear as the things that you want, it takes a little time to get there. We get attached to relationships because of the longevity of them. We get attached to jobs because they're just sort of fulfilling something that we need them to fulfill, but they're not really fulfilling us because we were never actually told that you can create anything you want. Your dreams are actually your actual inner self pulling you in the direction of the things that you actually want to do. But because of the script that we were given, that you have to follow suit and you have to just be like everybody else, we don't do shit about the things that we actually want. And we end up being in relationships because by 30 years old, you must be married. And by 35, if you don't have at least 2.5 kids, then you're losing at whatever it is that we've created in this society. But that is all a giant lie. Love is not painful. Life should not be painful. And I understand that the world is in a really strange place right now. We're confused half of the time. But I'm here to bring clarity into your life. And here's how I'm going to do it for you. If you need to be welcomed into a relationship, if you need people inside your life to validate you, get rid of them. Get rid of those people. Self-validation comes from the inside, from yourself, from what you do. If people around you are judging you for making decisions to benefit yourself, I don't give a shit if you've been with them for 30 to 40 years. If you don't have somebody seeing you completely and entirely as you are and accepting you in this very moment and accepting every single person you become as you move forward in your life, those people are not worthy. They're just not worthy of your time. If the job that you go to, your manager is being abusive, you think that you should be making more money, and you have an idea of how you could serve your community, how you can serve yourself. Oh my gosh, if you love to bake, oh my gosh, if you like to create paintings, if you like to do any of those things, the job that you're currently in, if you cannot leave it, try to figure out ways to find this job appropriate and supportive for the dreams you actually want to build. When it comes to your family members, there is no such thing as an obligation to show up to be around them if they're negative, abusive, or if they are not supportive in any way. You have no obligation because you are blood. I have met some incredible people in my journey at the age of 40 that are so much more family, what I define as family. And what I define as family is people that love you unconditionally all day, every single day for the rest of your life, that show up even when you don't call them to show up, when they know you are at your absolute worst, and celebrate with you no matter what, and want you to succeed. That is family and also friends, right? And all of this falls in with intimate relationships as well. If you've been with somebody for 20 years, 15 years, if you've been married to them, if you have children and they're not supportive and they're abusive and they're not taking care of the kids and they're not taking care of themselves and not taking care of you and on until the break of dawn, I don't give a shit how long you guys have been together. Leave. Figure out a way to leave. Again, this is all easier said than done, and I'm sure that most of you are triggered out there, but I'm just trying to help you out. And 5, money. Why is money in this whole relationship thing? Well, it's a massive part of this equation. If you went to school and now are in debt, if you bought a house and you're in debt, if you had a wedding and now you're in debt, if you're trying to do all this stuff and you're in debt, if you're trying to fill out these needs instead of these wants, if you have no boundaries set, if you don't see your self-worth, then you are throwing money at things that are not constructive, because you are coming from a unbalanced, unrooted being. How? I hear how. Okay, we start with ourselves. I've mentioned this in all the other classes, and I'm going to continue mentioning it forever. In your fight or flight, in your overrun mind, in your racing and chasing and just trying to hold on really tight to this job, to these dreams that you cannot afford, to these relationships that are toxic to you, to these jobs that are abusive, to these multiple things that are just not constructive for you, when you're holding on tight for that stuff, you are blind to your actual wants. You don't see them. Your eyes are closed, your ears are closed, your heart is closed, your whole entire body is closed to the idea that you can actually live the life that you want and the relationship that you want and the money that you want. Is it easy? No, I understand. You have bills, girl, boy, man, them, they, all y'all. Yes, I know, I have bills too, but I've come to a place in my life where I can sit here right now in front of all of you and tell you that there is a huge difference between not being able to and not wanting to, because you're comfortable in this discomfort. But this discomfort will kill you, while the discomfort of moving forward will open you up to so many different possibilities and attract so many incredible things into your life. So begin with a list of how these things are serving you. How is this relationship with my friends I've had for 30 years serving me? One column, how is it serving me? Another column, how is it not serving me? This relationship that you're with this guy, with this girl, with this man, with this whoever you're in a relationship with that is intimate, and you call it a relationship of potentially getting married, or maybe you're already married. How is this serving me? How is this not serving me? Do this with jobs. Do this with family members. Do this with money. I know you've heard this before. Where is your money going? Make a budget of your energy. Budget your energy. Once you start putting things down and really visualizing, how does Carl treat me in our intimate relationship? How does Sarah treat me in our friendship? How do my family members treat me when I'm around them? Do I want to go? Do I not want to go? Make another list as to what this job is giving you. If it's giving you enough money to build your dreams, where is your money going that is helping you build your dreams? All of this is energy. We are energy. Money is energy. People around us is energy. Physical energy, momentum energy. And what this will help you do is get an idea of where your boundaries actually lie, because you start to get to know yourself better. Just like I mentioned in previous classes, we are usually blind to what's happening around us because we're always on overdrive. This class is for you to pull back and understand that because you were told that something is going to have to be one way or done one way or created one way, it does not mean that it's the law. There's a massive difference between opinions and facts. And this was an easy breezy kind of class that might have made you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but it gave you an idea of the fact that just because you were told something doesn't mean that it's your truth. And if your truth is going to college and being in a long marriage and none of this stuff is informative to you, there is nothing wrong with that at all. This is for anybody who has looked in their life and have said, my relationships with all the 5 things that I've listed don't make any sense. Start to really bring awareness to what you're doing on a daily basis and know the difference between needing somebody to need you and wanting somebody to be around you. Need comes from emptiness and obsession and attachment styles that are aggressive or more like anxious attachment styles. You need somebody to be there to support you and love you unconditionally because you don't feel like you're enough by yourself. You have to begin to be enough by yourself because you are the most important person in this whole equation of relationships. And if I can magnetize and I can create the life that I want, I am here to teach you how to get back inside your power, to get your own opinion about what you actually want in this life. And especially with relationships, because if you're in toxic relationships with your partners, your best friends, your family members, your job, and with money, you're going to continue spiraling completely out of control. More on all these topics coming up soon. I'm so glad that you guys were here. I hope this gave you a little bit of information and opened up your eyes a little bit. I'm always open for questions. If anybody has any, I am here for it. Thank you guys so much for being here. Don't forget to connect to your breath and don't forget to write whatever important things you need to write down so you can better your life and get to making those lists. They're really important to get clarity and to really understand who needs to stay in your life and who needs to go. One needs to stay and one needs to go.